With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
AI is moving fast. So fast, it's hard to keep up. In fact, in ServiceNow's latest AI Maturity Index, scores dipped 20% from last year. But that's okay, because AI isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. You may be behind today, but tomorrow, you could be a pace setter. Dive into ServiceNow's AI Maturity Index and see how you can innovate as fast as your ambitions. Visit servicenow.com/AI maturity.
Have you ever spotted McDonald's hot, crispy fries right as they're being scooped into the carton? And time just stands still. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet for a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast Gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast Gems.
This episode is brought to you by Starbucks. Smooth, bright, deliciously crafted. Introducing Starbucks Sansera Blend, their smoothest, brightest coffee yet. It's a new kind of light roast, one that's packed with so much flavor, it shines no matter how you brew it. So go ahead and try it hot, iced, black, or with a splash of creamer. Visit athome.starbucks.com/Sansera-blend-coffee to bring Starbucks Sansera Blend home.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
Welcome to Sephora. I'm looking for a perfume that's not too perfumey.
I got you.
Serum moisturizer or moisturizer serum.
Let's get into layering.
My concealer is making me look worse?
Sounds like the wrong shade. Let's get you matched.
There's only one store that really gets what you're going for. Get beauty from people who get beauty. Only at Sephora.
Hi, Let's get you a basket.
It's summer. Time to enjoy long days, lazy nights, and zero cooking. Because Uber Eats has deals all summer long. So, when hunger strikes, don't sweat it. Delicious deals are just a tap away on Uber Eats. Enjoy all your favorite food delivered straight to you. Get Burger King, Subway, Popeyes, and hundreds more local favorites and savor every last bite. Now that sounds like a good summer. Order now on Uber Eats. Terms apply. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
This episode is brought to you by Hyundai. Get into the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event and get away with a deal so right, it almost feels wrong. Because right now, you can save big on their most popular models, including SUVs like the Hyundai Santa Fe and Santa Fe Hybrid, and the all-electric Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6. The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Visit HyundaiUSA.com. Offers end September 2nd, 2025.
Your earbud fell in a coffee cup. You need a taco pick-me-up.
When modern life gets rough, grab the timeless taste you love. Paso, the old El Paso.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Explore industry trends and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
David Gray, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for thinking about this important topic that we're going to talk about.
It's a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from North Carolina. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about empowering your team. It's interesting. As we were talking in the pre-interview, it's been a long week. It's been a long month. I think we're both feeling it. We're both dragging a little bit heading into the weekend. And, that's what this topic is about. It's about, recognizing that if we're feeling that way, members of our team, of course, are feeling that way. And so we need to find ways to uplift, to strengthen, to enliven, to re-energize our teams, give them opportunities to re-energize themselves. We also can't forget that we need that also. Like we need to find ways, to practice the self-care necessary. We need to re-energize. We need to take care of ourselves so that we have the ability to take care of our teams. So we're going to explore this, discuss this, and unpack it together today. As we get started, I wanted to share David's bio with everybody. David Gray is the CEO of FedUp Foods, a leading external manufacturer for functional, flavorful beverages in North America. An innovator in his field, David leverages his wealth of experience to help companies grow in a way that positively impacts society and the environment. David's work as a CEO centers around his commitment to community, culture, and continual learning. David is a Six Sigma trained CEO and a 2022 winner of the Pros to Know Award, which recognizes outstanding executives whose accomplishments offer a roadmap for other leaders looking to leverage supply chain for competitive advantage. A transformational leader, David drives impact through best-in-class performance improvement across internal and external clients, a lean and agile process to enhance profitability. His uncanny ability to shift the way brands think, act, and go to market have made him a sought-after leader and motivator in the industry. Now, I could go on. There's a whole lot more about your background, your track record, but I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to highlight before we dive on into the conversation?
I think to sum it up, it's this idea where the intersect of business and people and the understanding that people matter and drive success. You really have to develop people both personally and professionally. And I'll just kind of tie all my experiences up into that.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, that's such a simple thing, but such an important reminder that people matter. We all know that, right? We all know that intrinsically. And I think pretty much all leaders, business owners, managers, like you ask most people and they're going to say, yeah, people matter. And if for no other reason than they know that's the socially acceptable response, like that you're supposed to say that people matter. It's sociopathic to say, that people don't matter. But the way we treat people doesn't always reflect that attitude, right? So even if we say people matter, even if we truly believe that, even if that's a genuine, heartfelt belief, even if that's part of our intention, the reality is, where the rubber meets the road when it comes to how we run our business, how we manage our teams, how we lead out projects, we don't always demonstrate that. It doesn't seem like people matter so much. And so how we act, how we communicate, how we treat people really does make a big difference. And that matters a whole lot more than, what we say. We can say all the right things. We can put, great words on our website. We can, say things in all hands meetings and rah, rah, rah all day long. But at the end of the day, it's really how we treat people. Do we treat people with dignity and respect? Do we honor them and, respect their, professional and personal boundaries and like all these types of things, right? And that's where it becomes trickier because regardless of intention, we don't always get the balance right. We don't always, truly treat people like they matter, or at least not to the extent maybe people want to feel like they are treated like they matter, right?
Yeah, those points are so true and probably the truest they've ever been in a period of time where we're seeing the economic challenges globally impact the social fabric of society and, zooming in on the United States and feeling those pressures to perform on a career level, but also the pressures to perform on a personal level. One of the things that I have come to learn over my 4 years of being in business is that, I have I guess the word would be, just the opportunity to have people spend more time in my space of work than they do often at home. And that is something to acknowledge. That is a gift, but it's also recognized that can be a burden depending on what other people have going. It used to be through the days of business that, you would leave your personal, challenges or your personal life at the door of the workplace. And just the great research and case studies around the impacts of trying to spend 50% of your time operating as, a professional, and then the other 50% time hiding your personal side really declines the productivity of that person. And so really putting your team, your leadership in place, a strategy really ultimately around how you're going to take your organization and build a culture where people can show up and be their true authentic self.
Yeah, yeah, and again, that's tricky. I mean, we can have the best of intentions, but most of us, a lot of times we haven't experienced that ourselves. A lot of times we have worked in places that weren't particularly, healthy cultures. We've experienced toxicity, we've experienced bosses that were, perhaps jerk bosses, or at least not particularly well, trained bosses. And so, we haven't always seen it modeled for us, right? And a lot of people find themselves thrown into supervisory, managerial, or leadership positions without much training or leadership experience at all. And so they just end up mirroring what they've experienced largely. And if they've been fortunate enough to have really great mentors and seen really great examples, then they're much more likely to, mirror that and have some of those types of characteristics as well. But if they haven't, without intervening training, they're probably going to perpetuate, some of those same types of traits, even if they're great people. Like, it's not like people wake up in the morning, thinking nefariously, how am I going to show up and take advantage of my people today? How am I going to show up and exploit people and treat them terribly? And, most human beings aren't like that. Like, most people don't want to treat people bad. Most people wake up and just want to do the best they can, and they want to show up and do a good job at work, and they value people, and they want to help people be successful. Like, I truly believe that. But we don't always know how to do that, and we see so many bad examples around us, that in part we just kind of perpetuate those same bad patterns unless we can interrupt those things. So I would love, to hear a little bit more about your journey, around, becoming the new CEO at FedUp Foods, what you started to do in terms of looking towards ways of empowering your team, because I know that isn't always easy.
Yeah. Well, let's step back and I'll just talk a little bit about my journey, because my journey is the foundation, the lens that has allowed me to have the self-awareness. And that's what you're talking about, whether you're an individual contributor or you're part of a team, but certainly as a leader whose job is to galvanize and help people understand their why. Self-awareness is super important.
Yeah.
I grew up in the south side of Chicago. I had two amazing parents, high school educated at the highest. My father did serve in the military, but they had these two unique perspectives that really allowed me to have a very expansive mindset with the world. And it was ended up being a very global perspective as I got into my graduate work. But my mother was an early pioneer of Asian medicine. And as a result, as a little boy in the 70s, my siblings and I spent time going down to Chinatown and working with Chinese doctors. And with that, got exposed to a very holistic approach to health. And as a byproduct of that, there's very much a holistic approach to living to solve that holistic health. And as a byproduct of that as well, my mother really opened up a cultural lens on me that was deeply rooted. It allowed me to see a lot of joy through ways that different social and economic communities brought to the table, and that was built into me at an early age. And my father on their side was he was a salesman, so his conversations were very much around, people. And really, as kids of my father, we often had conversations around, if you want to get something, you have to treat somebody well. And I often remember my younger sister and I in high school, during those really difficult years, coming home and complaining about teachers or the situations. And my father would always pivot and ask questions in regards, well, what can you do differently? Or one of the ones that we really struggled with was like, your teacher may be having a bad day. And we're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
How can that be?
Empathy.
Yes. And we're going to get to that. So that came into play, and I just had a deep interest in philosophy and economics, and ultimately got my undergrad in economics, and became really fascinated with organization. And again, looking at patterns of my life as a young boy, probably as early as 7 or 8, I used to read the newspaper, and it was two areas of the newspaper. It was all in the transactions on the business side and on the sports page side. And I really love to look at why these organizations were making these changes to try to figure out a strategy, because that's what it was, for growth. And so over time, I took those experiences and tried to figure out how I could put that into a career. And fast forward, it led me into private equity, and it gave me a chance to sit at a table for the first time as a young professional, where I was working on the portfolio companies on the inside after we had made this transition, and working with executives. And so I got to see these dynamics at the leadership level that were trying to activate a strategy. And it really helped me see the things that worked and the things that didn't work. And what worked was servant leadership. Every leader that I was around that walked alongside their team member, and literally walked alongside the visual of a coach and its player. That idea of, like, in that moment, getting shoulder to shoulder and walking and talking. And sometimes it's a tough conversation, and sometimes it's, what do you think? But seeing those leaders do that was big. And the other thing that I saw that worked was empowering people.
Yeah.
Some of the best companies that I got to be part of were leaders were so self-aware that they didn't have all the answers, and that they were really getting some really talented people into these seats and empowering them to do their jobs, and allowing them to have the ability to ask for the types of tools that remove the barriers. That was really fascinating, because those were the themes that kept coming up from what worked. And then obviously what didn't work was the individual that didn't really recognize their role, didn't recognize what they were modeling, what you talked about earlier, just the behaviors, the actions, the diplomacy. They were much more about me, and much more about, getting the win at any cost. And you could see those folks. I think Simon Sinek has a graph that has on axis, at the top, it's the high performance, and on the Y, it's the high trust. And he talks about, if you go all the way up on the left side, high performance, low trust, basically you have what is called, as Professor Sutton at Stanford calls, the asshole.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that person is super toxic, and people leave. And then on the y-axis, if you go all the way to the high trust and low performance, you got an individual that is really great, but has economic impact. And you really want to find people that are in that sweet spot where they have high trust. And of course, if you can get high performance, great, but high trust and medium performance is really a beautiful spot, because people grow in that area. And so, taking that and really having this desire to lead, because Jonathan, I always knew that there was going to be two things that I would do if it was either I was going to be a Division I men's college basketball coach, or I was going to be a leader of an organization. But they both were the same thing. I was going to have the privilege to be with a group of people and be able to capture this vision where I could help them develop and grow both personally and professionally. And that at some point in my career, these people would come back to me and give me satisfaction for saying, hey, I appreciated you putting that time. Look where I've been able to do. And that is a really amazing result of the importance of, putting time and effort into the people. But I do want to talk about that piece that my father talked about, which has become part of my philosophy in leadership, and I coin it empathetic accountability.
I like that.
And I was asked to talk about accountability quite some time ago, and in that talk, I said I can't do accountability without empathy. And they, what do you mean? And I said, well, you have to have empathy to drive results. And I said, let's visualize this. Let's look at this scenario where you've got this Buddhist monk who's in the mountains with this, student, and they were sitting there in the trees and they're looking at each other, and they're doing it in a way that they're trying to really understand where they came from. And that understanding where they came from or where they're at drives this empathetic relationship between that monk and that student, which ultimately is this relationship. And when you do that, Jonathan, you drive these four important pieces, which is one, you enhance the collaboration of that individual. When you are driving empathy with your team members, you're helping to understand their perspectives that ultimately drive greater teamwork and cooperation. And when you do that, it builds trust, right? And that is a super important piece, because when someone feels valued and understood, they go to the next layer, which is I'm engaged. I'm truly being heard and appreciated. And when we know that as parents, and I have 3 children, when I'm self-aware and I'm at my best, my kids are being heard and appreciated. And that's where I see their motivation and satisfaction levels rise. And ultimately, they become better performers. And then at the key, which every leader wants, is it promotes inclusivity. So then you are in your meetings and you have 10 people, and all of a sudden it encourages inclusivity. People are willing to speak up, share their different viewpoints, and all of a sudden that's where the innovation and ideation comes and growth. And so empathy is critical to driving success today. And again, in today with such stringent timelines, sometimes audacious goals, we are not self-aware, and we are driving through humanity. And as a result, I think that's some of the reasons why we're seeing the unrest. We're seeing the greatest amount of mental health challenges. And we have to take time. I want to talk about the second piece of accountability, but I want to pause and let you, talk about that.
No, I appreciate that. I think there's so much there, and I'm thinking of experiences that I've had, where that's existed, and how wonderful that's been. Like just how dramatically different that is from many other experiences. Unfortunately, probably the majority of experiences where that's been absent. And coming back to what I said earlier, when that has been absent, it's not because, for the most part, it's not because the people who have been, in the leadership seat are bad people. It's not because they're nefarious, toxic assholes who just, are complete narcissists, sociopathic, just horrible people. I have known a couple people like that, but for the most part, they're just good people trying to do the best they know how. And for a variety of reasons, leaders often don't do what you just described. And it's really unfortunate, because for all the reasons people feel empowered when that does happen, when it doesn't happen, people feel disempowered, right? People don't trust, people don't share, innovation gets stifled. All of the good things that you described, the opposite happens when those things aren't present. And it's really, really frustrating. And instead of keeping your good people leave because they don't want to be in that environment. They get really frustrated when you're not seeking their input. When your leadership team or the one leader is trying to make all the decisions themselves instead of reaching out to the experts in their area to get input. Like it's kind of crazy, yet it happens all the time. And sometimes it's insecurity, sometimes it's just lack of skills. There's a whole range of reasons why it doesn't happen. But when it doesn't happen, it's disempowerment. And so not only do we not want disempowerment, we actually want to stop disempowerment. We want, at a minimum, I suppose, to keep it neutral. But really what we want is to flip the table. Like we want to make it empowering. We want people to not wake up in the morning thinking, oh, I got this meeting and I'm going to have to sit through this meeting where we go through the motions, where they act like they want my input, but everyone knows they've already decided what they're going to do, and blah blah blah. Like we've all sat through 1,000 meetings like that, and it's so frustrating. We don't want that. Like we actually want to create an environment of continuous learning where everyone knows that their input is needed, wanted, valued, where they have an opportunity to speak up and to share, where it's going to be considered, where that ideation occurs, where creativity and innovation can happen. Those are exciting environments to be a part of. Those are places that we want to contribute to. And when those don't exist, we tend the great people tend to depart. They tend to leave because there's frustration, and simply they just don't have a chance for growth when it's not the case, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, the second part of that empathy, which is really important because it is often the results is the accountability piece, the importance of accountability. And, again, I like to use visuals, but this is the one that where you see some of the greatest relationships and in like sports organizations where this relationship between coach and player. And people watch and playing sports is intense. It's not like you go and you just how you doing, Jonathan? There's 2 minutes left, or down by three, is everything okay? No, 3 minutes left, you're in the midst of problem solving under time constraints, and you're trying to drive clarity, energy, and solutions. And at that point in time, you're really holding someone accountable to their actions, and you've gotten there before through driving this empathetic relationship before, so you could have it. So timeout, going up to one of your top players, or pulling over one of your executives after a meeting and having a conversation about the way they're showing up, or some results that just weren't typical for them. It's super important to have accountability. And when you drive accountability coming out of an empathetic, accountable relationship, the first thing that happens is it really drives responsibility. Exactly, again, looking at my kids, when I give them individual accountability, ask them to do something, I just see them grow in their ownership, and they take their tasks and decisions much more seriously, which ultimately I see how that shows up culturally for them. They become more reliable in their siblings or my leadership team. It's easier to go for that. And when that happens, it drives the performance that's super important, that as an organization, we're meeting our goals and objective. Because, at the end of the day, we have stakeholder requirements. We've got, people to take care of. We've got clients to take care of. We've got our investors to take care of, and our community. Very important. And all four of them are byproducts of this organism called business. And when we're doing that and hitting those goals and objectives, then that's where the growth comes in, and it really creates an environment where others are willing to take risks, learn from their mistakes, and improve on it, and not be so concerned because the trust is there. And then my favorite part of all of that is when you're doing it, it allows us to build credibility. And that's the biggest piece of the accountability, is your reputation. Do what you say. And when you do what you say and you do it in a way that internally is successful or externally, the credibility just grows. And I believe, so many of the great companies today do that accountability really, really well. And the ones that are even better are driving the empathetic side of it. And they bring it together. And like I said, that empathetic accountability philosophy and leadership is critical today more than ever.
Yeah. Well, this is all awesome. I note the time. I'm going to have to let you go here in a minute. But before we wrap things up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, and then give us the final word for today.
Yeah. Well, certainly you can find me on LinkedIn, David Gray at FedUp Foods. And if you're interested and curious about the work that we're doing, making more healthy functional beverages accessible by using a global supply chain that's built on regenerative organic farming practices with people in mind. You can find us up at fedupfoods.com, fedupfoods.com. And, Jonathan, I think I'm going to go back to self-awareness. It starts with you, taking ownership and understanding where you are at that moment. And I think it's important that we give ourselves grace, because there are times where we may be having a difficult moment. And if you have self-awareness, you can pull yourself out. Hey, I need to take a break and reset so that I can show up in a better way. Or vulnerability is great. Showing up in a meeting and just letting everybody know, hey, I just had a tough 3 hours. I might not be my best self, but I'm aware that I may not be showing up, but I want to be present. And self-awareness is critical for today.
Yeah. Awesome. Well said. This has just been a fantastic conversation. I know we've just scratched the surface, but I would encourage the audience to reach out to David, connect with him, find out more about what David and his team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.